Yo.
What up, though?
I got to talk. I got to tell what I feel. I got to talk about my life as I see it.
All right, then. It's time for you to bring it to the table.
Turn up your radio wherever you at. We about to bring it.
Street Beat.
Yeah.
With Tony B.
For the next hour, Tony B will give you a chance to tackle local, national, and international issues that affect your community.
Street Beat.
Street Beat with
Tony B.
Welcome to this week's edition of Street Beat. Tony B. Feel cold and rainy outside. You don't know that time of year. The thing about it, though, is that during this time of year, for those who are older or who are having problems, out of these dry and every day. I'm so excited to have on the show today LaTanya Dubois, the executive of the Silent Task Force. LaTanya, how are you?
I'm good. I'm really blessed and thankful to be here with you today, Tony.
And also joining us, Jamisha Douglas, who is the CFO and Grants and Compliance Manager. Good to have you here as well.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to get straight to this. And LaTanya, you know how I get out.
Yep.
Open, honest, frank conversation. So let's talk about it. The first thing is the tiny village. For folks who may not know what a tiny village is, let's explain first of all what a tiny village is, and then we'll talk about specifically Skyway Village.
Okay, so tiny house villages were created through a program called Lehigh, Low Income Housing Institute, and they've
been around for a while.
They've been around for many years. Yeah. Absolutely. And they also work in concert with King County Regional Housing Authority, which helps to fund the tiny house villages and programming. So, and they partner, of course, with other partners like us and others, from Catholic Community Services to Urban League to a variety of other larger organizations that work in the homeless industry. And I will say industry.
Okay. And we're also going to talk about the Silent Task Force.
Absolutely.
As well. So now let's talk specifically about the Skyway Tiny House Village. Tell us about it, what it is, how it works, and I'll ask you some more questions after that.
Well, the Skyway Tiny House Village has been around for about 5 years now.
About 5 years.
It was a project that was led by community members and City Council Member Gamai and a lot of other concerned citizens, churches, youth, young people that were envisioning a place for displaced community members, because Skyway is the last Blackest community in Seattle.
The last
Blackest.
The last Blackest community in Seattle.
Yes.
Skyway.
Okay,
not Central District?
No, sir. No, sir.
Not even South Seattle?
No, sir.
Skyway.
Okay,
the last Blackest district. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
And it is unincorporated, one, and two, there is census data to support everything I just said.
Okay.
So I'm not making this up. We use this same information to, reach out for grants and services to provide wraparound services there. So I was asked by community to be a steward to the village. And what that meant at the beginning was to ensure that all the folks that were referred into the village were folks from the Skyway area who had been displaced, because as we know, gentrification is not a myth, it is a reality. And so many of our communities who have lived in their ancestral communities and neighborhoods from Seattle all the way out are being gentrified out of these locations at an alarming rate. And we're talking about families, we're talking about elders, we're talking about youth, we're talking about everybody being removed out of their indigenous areas where they've lived for 20, 30 years. And so what we do and what we currently do is we've built programming. We've worked with all the community partners, from churches to affinity organizations to the schools, McKinney-Vento, you name it, to house displaced residents in Skyway. The work has expanded to South King County, and it's expanded to the point to where a lot of folks that we house there are victims of sexual assault, sex trafficking, and domestic violence. Many of our shelter programs are full, and they stay full in Seattle. And so what we do is try and mitigate that by working directly with the team that is at the village. We have an amazing team.
Yes.
We have, I will tell you this right now, we have the best village out of all the villages in Washington State.
Okay.
And it is an unfunded project. What that means is they fund the village and all the mechanics that go with that, but they don't pay us to do what we do. And what we do is the referral intake process. We also put out fires when there's emergent issues. We show up on the scene to mitigate whatever, you know, we advocate for the clients, for the staff that we rely on that work there, that as are concerned as we are about the condition and the plight of our community, right? We also provide wraparound services. We provide mental health services. We provide substance use services. We provide food. We provide assistance when they get moved and they need furniture and they don't have furniture. And we also provide what we call a continuum of care. What that is this. Most folks that experience homelessness have experienced, we call them experiencers, meaning they've experienced varieties of trauma. It's not just the one thing that led them to being homeless, right? It is multiple levels of systems harm and other harms that we know our communities are faced with. And so we provide a continuum of care that they enter into when they get into the village, and after we help them get stabilized and move them on to housing. Now, once they move on into housing, they have been given an opportunity to have their own location. They're working, and they still receive the continuum of care to stabilize them and keep them housed. Because I guess people think that once you house a person, everything is good. It's over. Oh, the problems are solved. They're going to stay housed. But if they don't have a continuum of care to support them in an adequate way, a way that is culturally specific, meaning that we understand the conditions of our community and we're able to relate and connect with them in a way that renders them the resources they need, but the support that they need so that they can be productive, they can be self-sustaining, and they can pay it forward. Right?
I'm going to go back here for a second because you said it very proudly. You said the best.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best can be perception.
Oh, these are numbers.
So when you say the best, those who are out there, what are you saying? What makes it the best?
What makes it the best is we have one-of-a-kind wrap services that are not currently funded by city and state. They're funded by small grants that we have worked for, we have looked for to ensure that these services exist and we can keep them on a continual basis. What I mean by best is we have the highest placement rate. That means that people, say it, please say it.
The outcomes. We have the best outcomes.
Okay.
Period.
Which are?
Being placed into permanent housing, being able to get employment after not having employment, those who are on Social Security disability that are capped at the maximum amount of money that they can make, finding a solution for them to still make revenue because they still have to be able to live off of a fixed income. So the best, meaning we don't have the funding resources to take care of these situations. However, we still do it.
Okay.
And we have the best outcomes doing it.
And the people that get housed stay housed.
Stay housed.
They're not, that's a large outcome because a lot of people will get housed, but they fall into the same behaviors that got them unhoused.
60 days later.
You're listening to Street Beat. It's me, your host, Tony B. We are having a conversation this afternoon about tiny house villages, in particular the one in Skyway. I think it's important to have this conversation again, just because the time of the year is an opportunity to create awareness to folks who are unhoused, unsheltered. This service is available, again, the last blackest community, Skyway. And so you service Skyway in South Seattle. That's where your clientele comes from, right?
Well, we serve Skyway and we serve South King County. To be perfectly honest, we're a Black woman-led, culturally specific organization. We don't know how to not serve other people because that's not in us. We're going to serve those in need. But we are here for the Black community, period, point blank. We don't make no excuses about it, and we're unapologetic. So we gonna serve. You come to see it, and I'm gonna be honest with you, with the levels of services that we provide, which that's just one of many. We have had people travel from across country to our door. And I'm like, you're from where?
California, Colorado,
Just show up.
they
Like,
show up.
I was told to come see you, like, but we didn't, we're not expecting that, right? But what do? Okay, you came all the way to see us, we gonna help you. What can we do to support you through whatever it is you're going through? And at the center of everything that we do, regardless of if it's food justice, food sovereignty, whether it's housing, whether it's youth in detention, whether it's working with our elders, whether it's working with victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, or sex trafficking, it's holistic transformative healing is at the center of all things that we do, because our community has yet to have the healing and the opportunities and the culturally specific modalities of healing that exist for us and existed before we were even able, 59 years ago, able to go to a regular doctor, right? We used to have our babies on the kitchen floor, and Big Mama, the doula, the midwife down the street was delivering our baby. We couldn't even go to the hospital. So it's like really understanding the timeline and history and what our community has had to endure just to be right now, just to be. Nothing more, just to be. So healing is at the center of everything we do. It has to be, it must be. We need many more organizations working together to do this very work.
Okay, now you say healing is at the center of this. So I'm going to ask you this question. In order to provide a safe, secure environment for folks who are victims of trauma, are there requirements? And if there are to be accepted into the tiny village, are there rules that go along with being part of the tiny house village?
There are, and there has to be for many reasons. I will tell you this, we are not harm reduction.
Boom.
I'm sorry, not sorry. We are not harm reduction. We have experienced working with folks who needed more intensive case management.
I don't understand all them big words.
Okay, let me
harm reduction.
For folks who are
what is harm
addicted
reduction?
to substance. People who are addicted to substance use, like fentanyl, meth, whatever, folks who are addicted to drugs, that are homeless, that are living maybe in tent cities, or maybe sleeping in cars, or maybe sleeping under bridges, and are unhoused. We don't do harm reduction work, meaning that is the model that Seattle, Washington is using, which is a model where,
I'm sorry, the state of Washington.
Can you talk more about what it is?
So harm reduction in a nutshell is I'm going to place you in housing and pay for you to be in this housing so that you can get off the street. However, I'm not going to address your mental health, your substance use, your domestic violence. I'm not going to address any of those things. I just want the streets of Seattle to be beautiful again. So I'm going to put you in housing and pay for it. That's harm reduction.
Okay.
So let's put you into this house first. And then after we put you into the house, then we can figure out what we're going to do with you next.
If we even
do that.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarification on what that meant. I didn't interrupt you. Go ahead and continue on what you were.
I think it's really important that we are clear with what's going on in our community.
We were talking about is the application process, rules.
So the application process is this: we don't do harm reduction. We have had situations in the past where we have had our village overrun by folks who were using substance and refused services that we were trying to give them to, first of all, get them to a place of stability and a place to where, hey, you gotta have a job to get a place, and you want to see your kids, and you want to do this and you that. There's this whole life plan, right? And it didn't go well, to the point to where we had folks dropping fentanyl pills in the bathroom. Now, we're a family village, meaning we have women and children, we have elders, and we have experiencers of different levels of violence. So it's a communal bathroom situation. You can't be dropping fent pills in the bathroom when we know women and children are going to be going in there and using these bathrooms. It's a health issue. It's a safety issue, because and we all have seen where kids have died from being exposed to fentanyl, babies. That's not on my watch. Yeah. We're not doing that. So we don't take abuse, folks who are sex predators. You can't come. It's women and children. Sorry, not sorry. There are places and spaces where you can get housing and they work with you, but that's not what we do because we have to protect the people that come into our space. And so being a substance user, we want them to get the help, but we're not harm reduction. Being a sex predator, you need to be in a location or space where they work specifically with you.
Okay, so let's start with this. How long can someone stay in one of the residences in the tiny village? How long can they be there?
People stay for damn near 2 years, and they have a certain level of rules. So there's different infractions, like you can't bring guests. It's a shelter. People can't just pop up and come in and see you, right? Because we have people who are experiencers, and it's a shelter. You can't just use drugs. You can't hop the fence. You can't steal from other people. You can't abuse other people. You can't, there's all these things that are just common, non-negotiable things, right? And so for us, we have really honed our system to where we are vetting the people that come in, because it was during COVID when we were not able to. So everything was over the phone. Oh, no, I don't have no mental health issues. Oh, no, I don't have no substance use issues, but you get there, they're full-blown meth addict, right? Because we're talking to people over the phone. We can't vet them. We don't know who we're talking to. So now that we've been blessed to have a brick and mortar, people come in, we're able to look them eyeball to eyeball and have these conduct interviews to talk with them and find out where they're at and see who they really are, right? And then we go from there. Now, it's 90 days that we say, because what we're doing when they come in, we're getting them with wraparound services. They're getting case management. We're assessing where they are, where they want to be in terms of work, in terms of whatever medical issues potentially, in terms of kids needing to be in school or McKinney-Vento, getting them transported from here. We're assessing all of those things. But what we're also doing is creating a pathway to more stable housing. Most folks that we've vetted that are truly, that's what they want, because everybody that's homeless now are not just people that's traditionally been homeless. These are people, some of them, a lot of them are working class people. They've been working 2 and 3 jobs. And the cost of living is so high, they can't afford to live. So what we help them do is find somewhere to be, a location that is sufficient for them, something that they can afford, with the continuum of care attached to it. And as they're still working and doing everything they need to do, we're able to take them to different locations. Hey, try this. Let's go here and look at this apartment. Let's go look at this apartment. Oh, I found an apartment. They said all I need is this. And then we work with them to get in. So we have the highest, when I said the highest placement rate, that's a fact. That means we're housing people. They're getting their own apartments and they're stably housed in places they can afford.
For someone who may be listening right now, or someone who's listening and going, I know someone who needs that service. Is there a waiting list? How do you become part of this village? How do you become a member or a resident?
It is definitely a waiting list, because this is the piece that people don't really understand. Homelessness is out of control. We have a system that is broken. They spend millions and millions of dollars on so many different programs to house people, but the problem is only getting worse. Right. And so there is a waiting list because so many people call to get in. Right. And we have to do things fair and equitable, meaning that when folks call, we put them on the list. We know where they are in the list, and we just, we move them through as people leave, and people are leaving. So we're able to bring people in, but the list is long. We have a long list. It's just this fact. And that is because of the condition of, and I know it's not just here in Washington State. This is an issue that is prevalent across the country, which speaks a lot to the social economic conditions of our country, right? We're putting money into places and spaces that's not empowering or lifting up or inspiring people to be their best, right? To be able to live. Why is the cost of living so high? Why I gotta work 4 jobs? And I can't even be home with my kids because I got to work 4 jobs just to pay the rent and the lights. And then I got to choose between a pair of shoes and food. Why is that the issue? Why is that where we're still there? And I'm concerned because they've been throwing money down the tube. They're down the tube. There's so much money been out here, but I'm not seeing a real, a solution that is promoting the humanity in people.
LaTanya, you're talking about so many things that open the door to other conversations.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. Whether it be the economy or systemic things that have been in place for a while, and the recent election has a lot of folks concerned and worried about
What's going to happen?
what's going to happen, what that might look like. So getting back to this, and that's some of the work that you do with the Silent Task Force as well. And unfortunately, we're running out of time. I wanted to talk really about the village after hearing about it and saying, hey, you know what? Let's shine some light on this and make sure that people know what's going on.
People don't even know we do that. They don't, unless they call. They don't know it's us, so they just know that there's somewhere to go.
If you don't know, now you know. But I wanted to talk about the Silent Task Force as well. Before we won't have a lot of time to do that, but is there information? You said you've had a waiting list. You have some things in place that I'm calling accountability. But I'm going to look at it from a devil's advocate point of view and ask you, okay, now wait a minute. You're asking people to be accountable who are not accountable because they're traumatized, because they're addicted to drugs. You're eliminating some of the people who need your services potentially the most. What do you say to that, LaTanya?
What I say to that is there's so much money that has been invested in, is currently being invested in this population alone. I would say that's a fallacy. I would say that you can see what City Council has allocated in money towards harm reduction and all the groups that do this work out here that get millions, like right now, millions. You understand? They housing people. Some of the, come on now. So my little tiny house village ain't making a dent in anything compared to what the resources that have been allocated for this issue are already out here in the community. It's already happening. Go ahead.
And it's just worsening.
So I'm gonna ask you this question. You don't have to answer.
You've been to 12th and Jackson?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you this question. You don't have to answer it. Why aren't these resources being used effectively, or are they being used effectively and there's just not enough resources? I'm not sure.
I believe that if we as a community of providers learn to work together instead of worrying about people popping their collars, oh, we do this, we do that, we got millions. That's why we're the Silent Task Force. People don't know what we do because we're not going to exploit the human condition. We're not going to exploit the trauma that people experience. We do the work because it needs to be done. And that's what we're going to keep doing, whether they fund us or not, because that's who we are. I will say that accountability lies in people being willing to work together to leverage the resources they have to have a greater impact in the community. And I don't see that happen. I see people that got a lot of money calling us, talking about, hey, can y'all do this? Can y'all do that? And I'm like, hold up, you just got millions. Why are you calling me? We gonna help, but only to a certain degree. And that's called we're not going to duplicate services. We're not going to do your work for you. And if we're going to work together, we're going to have a system and working together to ensure that everybody is putting, some skin in the game.
Well, I just have to say this. For decades, money has been allocated to the Black community, and deservedly so. But for decades, we don't have a lot to show for that allocation. Now, I'm just saying, you know what I mean? And so, but that's, I guess, another conversation. Because if you're talking about groups getting millions of dollars, but all right, I'll just say that. You can respond to that if you want to before I move on.
How do they continue to get those millions of dollars should be the real question.
Yeah.
They use the narratives of organizations like our own that actually do the work to get the funding. But because we're so small, we're in competition. We're going to use that word because they literally put us against one another, but they put us in this competition pool to go for these grants. And because we're such a small nonprofit organization, it's harder for us to compete against the mainstreams. The mainstreams use our narratives. They use our stories. They use our successes. They use our trials. They use all of it.
They use our pictures.
They
on their
use
magazines.
our pictures.
Now I'm just see. I said this could lead into a whole nother thing. I'm glad that we had that little 3-minute conversation on that. Maybe some people aren't happy about it and go, "Well, why did you bring up that dirty line?" Anyway, quickly, the Silent Task Force. And you talked a little bit about the services that you provide. You didn't describe them as the work of the Silent Task Force. You associated them with the Skyway Tiny Village. We only have a couple minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about the Silent Task Force. Why did you start this? What do you do? And I'm sorry I only got a couple minutes for you to share with.
The Silent Task Force started as a grassroots organization in 2009, sitting around a kitchen table with Black African-American advocates that work for mainstream domestic violence organizations, realizing that there was gaps in services for our community. That's the way we initially started. Since that time, we have grown to address the issues and the needs of our community on multiple levels. The work we currently do, we have a food pantry, food bank that is culturally specific and designed to serve our community. We serve others, but is specifically designed to serve the Black community because there's not a lot of spaces for us to have those needs met in the way that we meet them. Go ahead, continue. We also do a pre-apprenticeship workforce development program that is Black-led by Black masons from drywall to finishing concrete, and they're currently in their second cohort, working with folks out of reentry, young people, old people, whoever want to learn the trades to make a livable wage. We're doing that work. We also do digital literacy work. We also work with our elders. We bring our elders in and they do a takeover every Wednesday, and they bring kinship providers, folks, elders who are taking care of their children's children. So they come and do services. They do jewelry, they do yoga, they do a host of things. They have healing circles happening. They do a whole lot of really amazing work. We also do our domestic violence, sexual assault, sex trafficking work. And we also do youth in custody. We work with the youth in detention, and we work with youth in school year round. So we have facilitators doing gardening, STEM robotics, mentoring classes, basketball, art therapy. We also we're, by the help of the Lord, and I will just two more things quickly. We will be hosting an urban gardening center where we are teaching our community how to use aquaponics, hydroponics, where we have flower beds, where we will be having a weather station to teach the sciences of it all. And then we'll have green jobs available too for the new year. So, and then the last and final thing is our crowning jewel. By the help of the Lord, we'll be able to purchase our building. We'll be big boy like you, big girl like you. We'll own this building, and this location will be there forever in time memoriam to serve the community. And we'll have a holistic, transformative healing center, a place where folks can come, all the healers, all the community, and get the healing that they have yet to receive from our community. So that is one of our ultimate goals. So just keep us in your prayers. And then finally, we have one more thing tomorrow. We are launching the people-powered initiative called the Ebony Alert. The Ebony Alert is a system that we're trying to put in place that is people-powered by the Black community to find missing Black women, girls, and people. We have a feather alert, we have a silver alert, and we have an amber alert, but we are the last to be found all the time, if ever. And so that's from 5 to 8 at our location. You can look us up on www.thesilenttaskforce.org. If you are interested in participating, signing the initiative letter, coming to find out more, we have an info session tomorrow.
If people want to donate,
how can they do that? They can donate on our website. There's a button on the website where you can donate.
All right, the Silent Task Force. Again, you heard from LaTanya. It's because they're about doing the work and not necessarily talking about doing the work, but that's why we as Black media exist, so that we can talk about the work that's being done in our communities. And one of those issues, one of the problems is these things called unanticipated challenges that mainstream media doesn't become aware of until they are dire in the community. And so just to hear that you are moving in those directions where challenges come up that people may not hear about or know about, and you can take care of folks before it becomes something that people go, oh, this is a challenge. Well, it was a challenge a long time ago for a lot of people. So thank you for the work that y'all do in the community. The Silent Task Force, again, first part of this conversation was about the Skyway Village. I just wanted to share that information with you. That's it. That's all. I got to give you 30 seconds each, though, for final words. Jamisha Douglas, CFO, about 30 seconds for final words that you'd like to say to our audience right now.
Continue to be authentic to self. To heal is to feel. And once you feel it, You can empower your own self. But if you can't find the strength to do it for yourself, we have a place where you can do it at. And that's the Silent Task Force.
All right. And LaTanya.
I just want to say, people, community, this is the time to align. This is the time to align for the assignment. We are living in a different era, a different age overnight. And if we don't learn to come together and work together, we can't blame nobody for the things that befall us but ourselves. We are open and ready for partnerships. We stay ready for authentic partnerships. Please know that. Thank you.
The Skyway Tiny Village, the Silent Task Force, on behalf of my guests, Shamisha Douglas and LaTanya Horace Dubois. It's me, Tony B. That's it. That's all the time I have. That's going to do it for the kid. Remember, whether you believe you can or whether you believe you cannot, you will be right. I'm out. Peace.